welcome back to the Women of Rock Oral History Project podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 5, with Emily Retsas, my trophy wife. We did refer to each other as fantasy wives for a while, and it has progressed to trophy wives, which I think is nice. Emily is the youngest person I have interviewed to date. She is a phenomenal bass player, has played with bands like Death Valley Girls. She's performed alongside Shirley Manson and Fiona Apple. She has toured with Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, and currently she plays bass for Phoebe Bridgers. You might have seen her on Saturday Night Live a few weeks ago. I did, and I was very proud. She played with Death Valley Girls for free at a Women of Rock Oral History Project event, the first fundraising event that we did in LA in 2018, which was really nice of the band and of her. But this is actually the first time that we've ever looked at each other face to face, although over Zoom, and the first time we've spoken to each other. We've emailed and texted, so this was our first date. I think it went really well, and I hope you enjoy the interview with Emily Retsas. But yeah, so that's how we've never actually spoken. I remember we texted. You invited me to the show. That would have been fun, except I think I had a 6-month-long sinus. I probably had COVID or something at the time, but I was just sick for a long time. I'm I can't. So
going to gigs is rough. Yeah. At the best of times, in that it takes energy from you. God, that show must have been a while ago.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
So, but now we can be real life friends. And when we do the trophy wife hashtag, it's personal now.
Yeah, now it really means something.
I also really appreciate that you turned it into trophy wife instead of fantasy wife. I feel really good.
My dream is to just be, someone thinks more of me than I am. And my job is done. And I can start trying.
But yeah, so I think this will be fun because I don't really know anything about you at all. And you're not really Googleable. So it's I usually do research, but I was oh, cool. There's really not that much research. So this is going to be your first, telling your kind of life story. People can refer to it.
Which is funny
because really famous.
I feel I'm an oversharer for sure. So I feel if people that know me probably know everything there is sometimes to know, where I'm maybe you don't tell people that. But yeah, no, there's not a lot of me on the internet. I think I do that on purpose. I don't think people don't need to know about me. They don't care.
I mean, people like me care, but I'm just super nosy and I just like to know everything.
Me too. I'm such an internet sleuth. So maybe that's why I know what people like me like.
Yeah. Wait, and aren't you Sagittarius? You
Sagittarius? Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we get along. I'm also an oversharer. Actually, when I was Tanya, when you said, how are you? I almost told you what I was doing. And then I was in my mind, don't say it. I'm just going to tell you.
Your birthday next week?
I was boiling dildos. That's what I was doing before we just sat down for this. You know what I mean? It's
hey, I think, cleanliness is important.
No, but I was why am I doing this right before? Because I'm going to tell her because it's funny, but it's she doesn't need to know that. And so I just went, great. But I just wanted to tell you.
No one needs to know anything. That's the best part. No one needs to know. That's where the fun of it comes from.
Yeah. So let's start with where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Texas?
You're from a little town in Texas. I was born in this tiny little town called Ceduna, which is in South Australia. It's on the coast. I think it has a population of 2,500. But my family kind of lived like outside of town and in this other little town, I guess like called Smoky Bay, which is population 200 people. So I grew up there. Very thrilling.
Do you have siblings?
Yes, I have a younger brother and an older sister, very ssimilar in age.
Okay.
Yasmin and Yanni.
Middle child.
Yeah, middle child. Very obvious. Pardon?
You have middle child syndrome, whatever that is.
Oh, I think I do, but I was talking about this with someone the other day where it's like I'm middle child, but I have eldest child like responsibilities. Like I don't think my sister is the eldest child responsibility. I think that falls on me.
Wait, why do you have, or were you always like that?
Yeah, I think I'm like very type A and just like very organized. And my family are very chill. Okay. So I'm always like, what are we doing? Where are we going? What time are we leaving?
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else is like, we'll get there when we get there.
Oh, that's funny. And what do your parents do?
My mother was a nurse for a long time, but now she manages like a crisis care center for Indigenous children. That I guess it's kind of like foster care in a way. So like they're kind of like removed from their family and waiting to be placed with other family members or people within their culture. So she manages a house that works like with the community. I guess like rehousing them.
Yeah.
And my father was a fisherman for a long time. Lobster and shark, which is hilarious. And now he drives tugboats and fishes in his like spare time.
Yeah.
So still was a fisherman in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And so you said that you were the like type A kid growing up. What about in school? Just kind of like what kind of young person were you? Were you popular? Did you have a lot of friends? Were you like an outcast, introverted, extroverted?
I think because like the town was so small. Like my high school year, we had the final year of high school. I believe it was 12 people in my class. So it's hard to be like the popular or / the outcast when there's only like 10, and 2 of those were guys, so it was 10 girls, 2 guys. So I think it's hard to kind of like be an outcast or be popular in that sense. But I was like I would say like I like loved school. I was like into school. I used to do my sister's homework before I went to school. I got like put in school early. I was like dux of my class, but like I was also like a little bit of a shit. And that I guess like I liked pranks and like no one else was really like into the kind of music that I was into. So I had like one friend, we played in a band, and I feel like we were kind of annoying at the same time as being like very good at our schoolwork.
I can't believe you found someone to like play in a band with in a high school class of 12 kids.
Yeah, and whom I'm still very good friends with. She lives in Scotland now, Kimberly. But yeah, like my best friend growing up, and still, it's funny that out of 10 people, you can find someone who's kind of like, your soulmate growing up. And we're still in touch. I still see her whenever I'm over in England and stuff like that. But yeah.
And what was first, I guess. What like was your household kind of musical or creative growing up? Like, how did you even get interested or exposed to music?
My parents aren't musicians or like musical. I guess my dad played a little bit of guitar, and I mean like a little bit of guitar, like the same 3 songs. But my mom, my mom always had this thing where she's like, we live in this tiny town, but I want my kids to be cultured and like experience culture. And so I was like pretty great at getting us into like piano lessons from like an early age. And I think that's kind of how it like started. I didn't love piano. It was just something that I had to do. And I think like as that went on and I started like, you know, figuring out an identity and like listening to music that was like not just what was like being fed to me on the TV. I wanted to play guitar and I remember like telling my dad, I was like, I don't want to do piano lessons anymore. And he was like really upset.
Yeah.
But I was like, but I want to play guitar. And he's like, well, you can only give up piano if you play guitar. That's the only way that you're allowed to not do piano lessons anymore. So then there was no guitar teacher, so I had to teach myself guitar. And yeah, I guess like they were always like we started a band when I was like 14, 15. I went on tour when I was like 15. I got kicked out of my
on tour at 15.
Because we live so far away from everywhere. It was like 9 hours to the next, like to the city.
Yeah.
You had to play like all these other country towns to like make money, or at least to play to different people that weren't the same 100 people at your last show, or you know, however many. So we would like do like this like little regional tours when I was like 15, 16. I don't know how my mother let me do that. I think it's because I was so well behaved as a child that she was like, yeah, what's she gonna do? She go on tour and go to bed early.
Is that what you did?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Or did you like lash out and?
No, not really. I mean, like
roll at 14.
No. I was like not really into like drinking or like, you know, drugs or like anything like that as a teen. I think I was like, all I know about this is this looks like bad for your life. So I was like, I mean, I drank and stuff sometimes, but like, yeah, I wouldn't say that I was like rebellious in any respect. I just liked, I mean, I liked running amok with my friends, but that was mostly like at the detriment of other people, not ourselves. But yeah, so yeah, we would like go do tour, like, you know, drive like 4 hours and like go play a show somewhere, or an hour or two to the next town, and like they would give you a hotel room and like dinner plus pay you and all this. And like the gigs were pretty well paid.
That's like not like touring in the United States when you're a little.
It's not like touring in Australia either.
Oh, no?
Really. No, I guess like because we were playing like covers and originals, and you know they'd be like, play 3 more AC/DC songs and we'll give you an extra $200 and a bottle of Jack Daniels, and you're like, all right.
Yeah. Wait, and what was the name of that band? This was your first band?
Yeah, it was called Nutmeg.
Wait, what was it?
Nutmeg. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Kimberly was in that band. My friend Kimberly and I. And a horrible ex-boyfriend, and I think it was like my sister's boyfriend at the time played drums. But yeah, so Kimberly and I had this band called Nutmeg. She played guitar, I played bass.
Okay, how did you go from, because your dad said you can only quit playing piano if you play guitar, and then were you a bass player just because like you guys needed a bass player, or?
I was the worst guitarist out of the three of us on guitars in the band, and they're like, well, we need a bass player and you're the worst, so you have to play bass. And I was like, what? But I was like, oh, you guys are right. They were right. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, fuck it. I was like, actually, you know what? All the bands that I listen to, the bass player is the coolest person in that band.
Yeah.
So why not? So jokes on them.
Your shirt, like Sonic Youth.
Okay.
Kim Deal, the bass player.
Kim Deal, Melissa After More, you know. Just everything that I was listening to, I was like, either the only woman in the band was a bass player, or they were just the coolest person.
Yeah.
it just looked cool. I was like, I don't know, I wasn't the type of person that wanted to be a front person per se. That was too much attention for me.
Yeah.
I didn't want that kind of attention. I was happy to be on stage, and this seemed like a good fit.
How did you get so good at bass? Like, are you because I know you had piano lessons, taught yourself guitar. Did you ever take bass lessons, or like, I assume that you like know music theory and stuff, which I do not know. I don't know if that's true or not, but you can tell like you're just really good. Like, to watch you, you're just a very good bass player. How did that happen?
I did not get bass lessons until I was like in my mid-20s, I think. Early mid-20s. I had some guitar lessons. I had a great guitar teacher for 1 year. His name was James Brown. When I moved to the city for 1 year, my parents moved there and then moved back for the final year of high school, which was like devastating. And another story. But I had a guitar teacher named James Brown who was great. And that school actually had a music theory element to their school. Our school in the country did not. You just played covers, and that was kind of it. And so I went from that and playing live to having to go to like a high school, a private school that had music theory that I had to pass an exam for, having never done it. So I had a tutor, and I studied, I would go to my tutor every week and study really hard because obviously I loved school and I was a nerd. And I had a guitar teacher that I would see every week as part of school, and he was really great. I think that year kind of like really kind of set a good foundation. I was still crap in a lot. And I was playing guitar again. I'd stopped playing bass at this point. And then when I left school, I guess one of the friends that I'd made at that new high school, Milton, we both, we loved Sonic Youth, and like we loved the Melvins and like all of that. And he was kind of like my Kimberly of the city, where we were like, okay, well, we've left school, like we should start a band. And he was like an amazing guitarist, and a great songwriter. And we made I guess we had like a 3-piece called the Notorious Daughters, and I started playing bass in that, and then had like some bass lessons here and there from random friends. And I went to music school for 6 months.
Like college, or?
It's called TAFE in Australia, which is like kind of like community college, I guess. It's like in like trade school almost.
Oh.
And I did that because that was the only way you had to study jazz and go to university, or you could do this, and this was like contemporary. And I was like, well, I don't want to study jazz. And, I didn't grow up with music theory, so I don't even think I could get in if I tried. And so I did that while playing, I guess, in bands, or after I played in bands. I can't really remember the timeline. And and I think that I had an amazing bass teacher there, Kane Jones, who still teaches there. And I think that really changed a lot for me. I had like decided that I wanted to be better, and I would, study, and then I would come home and I would like spend 5 hours literally in my garage.
Yeah.
And not take a bathroom break or anything, and just be like, you're in here playing. And that's
peeing yourself.
Pardon?
And peeing yourself.
And peeing yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you're going to get good.
Yeah.
Is if you put in the time. And I guess, I don't know, but I don't think I'm good. I think I can do the job, but I think that changed a lot for me, from like playing in punk bands to like maybe taking it a little bit more seriously. Yeah.
So you keep mentioning that you like played in a lot of bands. Notorious Daughters is a cool name. I think that's a cool name.
There's a film called Notorious Daughters of Fanny Hill. I can't remember if it's a porn or something. But or like it's some kind of crazy film.
Yeah.
And Milton thought it was a great idea for a band name, and I was like, sounds great. Let's do it. So yeah, so that was the band. That was like, I guess, most of my 20s.
Okay. Wait, how old are you? Because I thought you were like 25.
Let's say I'm 25.
Are you even 30 though?
Oh yeah.
You are? Oh, I thought you were super young. I was like, might be the youngest person I've ever interviewed. Well, I think you still are the youngest person I've interviewed for this project.
Oh, really? No, I'm 89, so I'm 31, 32 this year.
Oh, okay. When I said 30, you're like, that's pretty close to 30.
That was like last year. I've had a lot of work done though, so you know.
Yeah. You look great. I mean, it's very, like the Botox is doing its job. So
if anything, I need like the opposite of Botox.
I keep using that app on Instagram, and I usually like make fun of people. It's like it's like a plastic surgery app.
Oh, the filter?
Like it does your lips, and I mean, I don't know. I'm like very annoying and kind of like an old person when it comes to apps. If I like it, I'll just like make videos of myself with like kitten ears for fucking 2 weeks or something. But this app, I thought I didn't like plastic surgery, and I'm like, I made my whole family do it. I was like, I look amazing. Like, I don't know if I had a lot of money, if I would do all of this, because I think I look cool.
You're like, would it even end up looking like this at the end of it?
Yeah, like I probably would now that the app exists.
Yeah.
All right. So what I was wondering was your intention to like be in a band, or because I could be wrong, but you're kind of like a session musician now, right? Like you don't have a main band, you get hired to do jobs and you go in and do the job. Is that what you wanted to do, or did you initially want to like be in a band and try to do the music industry thing?
I always knew I wanted to be in a band, but everyone's like, you can't be in a band, that's not a job. And then I got some normie jobs, and I used to work in like festival management as my like normie job, and so the other side of the music industry for a long time, and like at labels and booking agents and stuff like that, management companies, like, I mean, you name it, I've probably absolutely done it. And then I was playing in a lot of bands at once. I think I was in like 5 bands at once before I moved to America, and something like that. And I had like, I think 3 or 4 that I was like regularly in. I would have to like write them down to get a number, but I was like, I was in Adelaide, and it's like a smaller city, so touring in Australia is not like touring here or touring in Europe. There's just so much space, and not a lot of people, and not a lot of cities that you can play, so like the landscape is different. And I was like, okay, well, playing in a band and expecting a band to take off is really hard. And chances are slim. And no one ever seemed to like want it as much as I wanted it.
Yeah.
In that respect. Like I would be like, if you said move into a house and let's play it all day, every day, you know, forever, I'd be like, great, let's do it. But no one else was like, you know, people were like late to rehearsals, people want families, they want kids, they want to, you know, people have other priorities, which are totally fine. And I was like, I don't have any priorities. I'm from some tiny ass town when, you know, nothing ever happened. I don't aspire to that, and I never like wanted that. And so I was like, I gotta get out. And I wanted to move to LA for a long time. But I was like, visas are really hard, and the money that it costs for those things, as well as like coming over here and not really knowing anyone,
Mhm.
and then trying to make it work when you didn't go to jazz school and trying to be a session musician. And that was really daunting for a long time. And then I had some really, I guess, like traumatic things happen in my life that kind of like put things on hold or like maybe reassess things. And then I was like, okay, well, I think it was 2 singers out of 3 bands were having children. And I was like, well, we're not going to tour. So you either decide whether you're going to be in the music industry or if you're going to be a bass player.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a great business mentor through like this free government program that I was a part of. Because I've like sat on grant panels and stuff, which I'm sure you know a lot about probably as well, where I was just like always like looking for opportunities. And she was a photographer and she was like, look, I'm going to speak to you as an artist and not as your business mentor. And she was like, you can come back and work in the industry anytime you want. You know, it doesn't have like an age on it for you in the same way that touring does. And if touring's all you want to do and you say that it is, then go do that.
Yeah.
Go do that now. Go do that and dedicate all your time to that. And then if you want to later, go back to your career as a music industry personnel. And so
wait,
I was like,
what do you mean by music industry personnel?
well, like working in labels and stuff like that, like a desk job music.
Okay.
Because that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm moving.
And when did you move to LA? Like how old were you when you moved out there?
I think it was 2018.
Oh, okay, so not that long.
Yeah, what's that, 4 years, 3 years?
3 years?
Yeah, like June 1st, I think. I landed, but I'd been coming to LA. I think I'd been to like LA like 7 times before that, 6 or 7 times, just to be like, is this what I want to do? Yeah. And then I was just like, all right, bye.
Yeah, like what did you do when you got here? Did you have any contacts? Did you have any like friends, or I mean, what was that transition like? That sounds scary.
I'd come over here and attended Rock and Roll Camp for Girls LA, which was so much fun. And I think I ended up staying for like two months. I can't even remember. And I made like some really great friends out of that. I had, you're teaching girls how to write songs. It's like a leadership, self-esteem camp really, through music. And I'd like dated someone who used to live here, and I like knew like one of their buddies, and that was kind of it. So I had like my rock camp girls, and then like one friend that I kind of knew here.
Yeah.
And then I think the day that I got back from rock camp in Australia, I got a lawyer and started the visa thing and worked 5 jobs at once and just saved. And then I think within like 6 months got on a plane. And then landed and then was like, fuck, what do I do? I don't know. And then I don't think I played a gig for the first 6 months I was here.
What?
Yeah, because it was mostly just trying to get to know people and like, all of that stuff. And then in that first year and a bit, I think I played in 32 bands or something.
Do you remember what the first like gig was that you got?
I think the first gig that I played here was with my friend Tipper, who's from Omaha, and it was part of Rock Camp. So lovely. She had this great band called Color TV, and it's kind of like the Cars. I love the Cars. Oh. And we played a gig at I think it was at Lot 1 and Ham and Eggs or something. There were like 2 gigs in like a week, and that was one of the first shows that I had kind of played here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which was fun. I mean, I love her music. So I don't think I've played with her since. I mean, she's an actor. She's always pretty busy. But yeah, I think that was the first gig that I played.
When you just said she's an actor, I'm like, it's like everyone I know from LA
Yeah.
who plays in a band like also is like in the industry somehow, like screenwriter, filmmaker, actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I visited, I was like asked my friends, what, like, why are there so many people just like out during the day or like at coffee shops? And they were like, no one has a real job. Like, so they all like work on screenplays, or like probably everyone you saw at that coffee shop is like a screenwriter or something.
Yeah.
Like, so weird.
No one in LA has a real job sometimes. And I'm like, if you can't work out how someone pays their rent, the answer to that is a trust fund.
Well, that's what I realized too, is I'm like, wow, a lot of people are making money writing screenplays. Nope.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I have, well, me and my friend Candace, the drummer for Alice Bags Band, I don't think she'll mind if I call her out, but we're like not trust fund people at all. And so I think we both dated like that kind of hipster trust fundy woman. Like she is also gay. So I also dated someone in LA, which is why I rolled my eyes when you said that you dated someone in LA. I'm like, I just think it's always a bad idea. But it turned out she was one of those trust fund people. And so like, do you know the like aesthetic too? It's like all white, like mid-century modern. Not that I dislike, but it's very like particular with like a succulent plant on like
I will hide my mid-century modern coffee table.
No, it's not like, because I almost
I know what you're talking about.
And there's like two pictures in like wooden frames, and so it took 6 months for her to admit to me that, because she also like pretended to be poor. You know, she's like, I don't have money, like I can't afford this. And then she told me that she does actually have a lot of money, and both her parents were like corporate lawyers for Coca-Cola or something. It's like,
the thing about that is, it's like, own it. If my parents were like working on some Coca-Cola money, I'd be like, hell yeah, this is
I'd take it too.
Like this.
Yeah, but I'm like, why just say it? Like,
yeah,
to pretend to be poor. It was like, Jesus Christ.
Moving here was the first time I had people kind of like be weird. You know, like no one wants to tell you that they're a server. That everyone's like, I'm a singer, this is all I do. And I'm like, I play for you. I know how much you pay me. So I could assume how much you're making. And I know that that's not how you're paying rent. And then I think when I moved here, I was just like, yeah, I'm like some dumb kid from Australia.
Yeah.
And I don't, and I don't have money, and I don't come from money. And people were like, what? You're not supposed to say that. And people were like, you're so honest, like you're so real. And I was like, what?
Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like I always feel very weird when I go to LA. Like I like it. I like the creative part. I love going to shows. But I can't explain it. It takes like 3 days for me to just feel like a piece of shit, like being around all those people. And I'm like, I need to go back to the woods where I come from.
Yeah. I always had this thing where it's like, LA is like disruptive constantly, where like, it's always like disturbing the water for you so that it's hard to be calm, I think. And in a way that's great, because you're not like, content, but in other ways not great for mental health. But it's weird because there's some amazing people here. There's some of the nicest, most down to earth, supportive people here, and then it's also like this mix of like people like, whoa, yeah, but how do you know this person? And you're like, what do you mean we're friends? And like, yeah, but how do you, like, who are you though? Like, can I get anything out of you? At the moment, like, they realize they can't, because you're just some dumb kid from Australia. They're like, all right, bye, like done talking to you.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh wow, okay, like good luck.
Yeah.
But I think when you first come here, if you don't have a support network. I think that can be like really hard. That was really hard for me, is just realizing that people have their own intentions for you. Or, as long as you're not doing better than them, then you can be friends.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah. The, like, competitiveness.
Yeah, which I love. I'm so competitive. But I think there's a difference between being competitive and being like supportive as well. Like some people are like, you can be competitive, but I'm only in competition with myself. I'm not in competition with anybody else. And people love to pit women against one another. And I'm like, they're like, oh, like she's your competition. And I was like, I don't have competition. Yeah. It's like, we don't have the same life experiences. But, if seeing other people being great is, motivation for me to work harder, then great. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know why I just thought of this, but is your family like supportive of your I'm just curious of your life, your career, of your art?
They are now more than they ever were. I think I got into like neuroscience at university. I got like a great university score, and I got into like medical science, neuroscience, and I skipped out on that. And I did medical trials to fund me getting to America. And I remember that, like, when I was like, Mom, I'm doing medical trials for money. And she was like, please go back to university. Please. She's like, you could do anything that you wanted. You could be a surgeon. You're so smart. You could do anything you wanted. And I was like, I know I could, but I don't want to. But when I moved, I think they realized that like this was like really important for me, and that it was going to be something that I was going to work hard at. And they were super supportive of me coming over here. And, I think they made a point to verbalize that to me as well, which was like great. And and like now that, things are doing a little bit better. They love, they love music. So my dad is a huge fan, which is great. So they're super supportive. And I think that makes it easier being away from them so much.
Yeah. Oh, I remember what I wanted to ask you. So you had said, and I ask everybody about this, there's like, I know it's gendered, but I'm just genuinely curious. And if I talk to male musicians, I like ask them the same questions. I'm nosy. I'm a Gemini. I just like to know shit. But so you said that when you decided to like come to LA, that a bunch of people in bands that you had played with were like getting married and having children, and how that to you was not like conducive to being in a band or being in the music industry. So do you feel like for yourself, number one, did you ever want any of that, like marriage, children, the sort of like normal, like hetero thing? And number two, do you think that that's possible to have both and to like be a bass player in a touring band?
I never wanted those things. Like I feel like, people are like, oh, when I was like little, I used to like think about my wedding dress. My parents aren't married. I will preface that. My parents aren't married. They're together. They're in love. It's disgusting. They deeply care about each other. Like, and you watch like your friends' parents or like, people, get divorced. And I think they set like a great example that like you didn't need a conventional relationship. And that as long as it worked for, for the two of you, then that's kind of all you needed. And maybe that formed like my thoughts around marriage and stuff. Like I never wanted to get married, and I never really wanted kids. And like, I'm getting older now, but like now so old. Well, like I'm not like I'm not 21, you know, like to the point where you have to start thinking about, well, if you want to try and conceive a child, unfortunately for women, there is a time limit on that. I think now, I'm thinking about it a little bit differently. I mean, I'm open to both of those possibilities. Should the right person also be open to those possibilities? But I don't think you need, what is marriage? Like you wear a weird ring on your hand that symbolizes that you own each other. I don't know. But I would love
your dad gives you to a new person. Yeah, it's like
my parents used to threaten me with arranged marriage to like the other Greek kid in town. So I think maybe that traumatized me as well. I was like, no. But
so you're not like anti-relationship. You just don't think.
No, I love being in a relationship.
You do like it?
I'm always in a relationship. Yeah. No, I love being in a relationship.
I love you're telling this to your wife, which is inappropriate. Some might say
not a relationship. But like I like the idea of a team. I mean, a band is in a way, a band is a team. I love Michael Jordan. I love like the, Chicago Bulls. I watched Last Dance. I cried. I associate with that mentality so much where it's like you're a team and you have, a common goal that you're working towards. And tour is that, you're a bunch of essentially sometimes strangers thrown in a bus or a van, or a Prius, thrown in a Prius. You're in a hatchback driving around to play a show. And that's the goal, is to like execute that goal to the best of your ability and maybe have fun along the way. But it's the camaraderie, and a relationship is that in a lot of ways where it's like you have a teammate. I don't really like to be by myself a lot. Like not, I can be, but like I think you have more fun with other people. In the same way that you do, in a band rather than maybe being a singer-songwriter. I don't know, I've never been one, but like I like relationships. I think that you can have healthy ones on tour. I've definitely tried. But I think you have to find a teammate that like wants the same things and is supportive of like your artwork and stuff. And I mean that can be hard, finding that. I've definitely dated bass players, and that maybe sometimes doesn't work out because you're doing the same thing.
I'm just imagining like face-offs.
No, it was like complete opposite, where like it was almost as if I didn't play bass because like, bass is what I do. Jokes on them. But yeah, like I think like when you're with someone creative, like my partner now is like, in the arts. And I think like that's good because you both realize that like you have this like schedule that isn't Monday to Friday, and and if you get an audition or a session and you say that you were going to hang out, like things change. So it's someone who has like patience and also like determination within their own career, that they're okay with things not always going to plan. I guess
that's really interesting too that you said that you're like because I'm also very type A. Like I think I come across as people will describe me as like fun and but I have a very
people never describe me as fun.
Shut up. Are you serious?
I wouldn't say, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't say
you
that.
Look like your social media presence, which I understand is not reality. And like being a Sagittarius, I would imagine that you don't have a problem being spontaneous.
I like being spontaneous, but I don't know. I always wonder, I'm like, I don't know, am I fun? I don't know if I'm fun.
I don't think I'm fun. I think I'm like funny. So I get that people are like, oh, you're fun. Like, oh, she's fun. But I find I am like very regimented about like my schedule, and I love to work. Like I really genuinely like what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like super strict about my time and how I spend it.
Oh my God, Tanya.
I know. Is
Is
that
this what it's like when doves cry?
yeah? No,
Yeah.
that's what I was getting from you, and I really don't like talk to a lot of people who feel that way um about just generally their work. Like you have to really love what you do, and then it's not working so much. But I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what my point was, but I was thinking about, because you're a Sagittarius, you're like supposed to be spontaneous and fun, but you're also type A. So you're kind of like an enigma.
I joked when I started like dating the person that I am dating, where I was like, I'm sending you a Google Calendar invite, and this isn't a joke. Like,
And he was fine with it. He was like, okay.
Yeah, he has access to my Google Calendar now.
Okay, you know what? I shouldn't be endorsing your relationship. I should be more jealous, but I'm telling like that I could do a relationship if I had a person who would accept a Google Calendar or be like, can we schedule the time that we're gonna spend together in advance so I can like do what I want to do?
Yeah.
Would be happy.
He's you'd love him, he's lovely. But yeah, I'm always like, and like he'll be like, oh, okay, so like I saw that, you know, you're working until like 8 on Wednesday. And I was like, oh, you looked at the Google Calendar. And I was like, look, I don't want to pretend like I didn't really get into you just telling me that. I love that you check it. Please check it. Yeah. But you know, like we both freelance. So I'm like, wait, when do you have this thing? All right. So like if we don't make time to see each other and we just assumed that the other person was free, I think it might be hard.
Yeah.
And also I'm like, I want to spend every waking moment with you. When are you free?
All right. So I'm always digressing, but I want to know, again, like I said, since I don't really know much about how your career since you've moved to LA has progressed. I know the big names that you have played bass for, which is like pretty impressive when I saw you on stage with Shirley and Fiona Apple.
Yeah.
And then I saw you touring with Kim Gordon. Just what has been your like trajectory to the point that you're at now?
Like a brief history?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I landed and I love working, like you love working. Because if I'm not working, I have an existential crisis about death. Which I'm sure, I don't know if you're like this, but I feel like that's where the organization and the time management comes from, where I'm like, these are minutes I'm never getting back. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know. But I experienced a lot of death in my life.
Like go into the and you don't have to, but are those, you mentioned traumatic life experiences that happened before you came to LA. So is that you've had like deaths of people close to you? Or
yeah, I think two of my closest friends, so my cousin growing up, Jessie, who, it was like Kimberly, Jessie, and I, that was it. It was like, you know, the Rat Pack. And I can't even remember what order it is anymore of like how things happen. But I was like, I had a really good friend that I worked with in bars and stuff like that, because you know, you work hospitality like most decent humans do. And I was going like through a weird time in my life. I think my boyfriend and I of like 6 years had like broken up and whatever. And my friend Bridget was like, you know, move in with me. My housemate's away for like, I don't know, 3 months or something till you figure out what you're doing. And I was like, okay. And I was working this like bullshit government job, like event managing for like the city council. And I got like I was supposed to like see her. I was supposed to move in on a Thursday, and I think it was like a Tuesday or a Sunday, and she had like I was staying. It's like this so like long story, but like I was staying with my sister who lives like one street over, and then like I got a text. Well, I hadn't heard from her. No, she had texted me and been like, "Hey, like I'm in hospital. Like I attempted to take my life again," and I was like, "You know, are you okay? What's going on? Blah blah. You know, do you need anything?" And I was supposed to be moving in with her on like a Thursday, and she's like, "No, I'm fine. I'll call you tomorrow, or you know, about moving in." And you know, tomorrow came and I didn't hear anything, and she was not that kind of person that you wouldn't hear from her. She's like very mothering, caring personality, and didn't hear from her. And I remember like calling another friend and being like, you know, have you heard from Bridget? And she's like, no, you know. And I was like, okay. And I think as I got off that phone, I had like a missed call on my phone from like Constable blah. Yeah. And he was like, hey, just calling about your friend Bridget. And I was like, what? And you know, you get a phone call and you're like, you don't think anything. You're just like, what the hell? Like, that's weird. And you call, and I called them back and I was like, hey, and they're like, hey, where are you right now? I was like, I'm at work. Why? And they're like, well, can we come and talk to you? And I was like, yeah, why? And they're like, about your friend Bridget. And I was like, what about her? And they're like, oh, you don't know? And I was like, no, what? And they're like, well, she committed suicide last night. And I was like, what? I was like, no, I don't know. And so they came around. I was like 2 streets over from a police station. They came over and they're like, you know, you were the one of the last people to see her or like talk to her. So like, we need to like speak to you basically. And that was like really, that was like a pretty devastating, as you could imagine, time in my life. We were like pretty close, and, you know, to know that someone was like struggling with those kinds of things and eventually, you know, like succumbing to depression. And you're always like, you know, is there something I could have done? She was like super supportive of my music career, and like I had wanted to move at that point, and she was very supportive about that. And then I think within 6 months, like while I was going through the grief of that, my best friend growing up, my cousin Jessie, whom, I mean, like we were like kind of inseparable, took her life. And I was like, well, what next?
Yeah.
Really, like it was just kind of like one after the other kind of thing. And I ended up losing another friend to suicide, and then another friend to kind of like cancer, I think within 2-3 years of each other. Like you could just kind of lump them in, I guess, because it was like, then like, you know, a close friend who was kind of like a brother, he used to live with us growing up, committed suicide as well. And it was just like, there was so much death happening where like these people were unrelated from one another, and no one was like super empathetic about it. And I felt sometimes, you know, because everyone's like, well, what's wrong with your friends? I was like, what? It's like nothing. These people are unrelated. Like mental health is real and an issue and stuff like that. But I was like, damn, like, you know, either I stay, and I'm so unhappy living, you know, I was unhappy living in this place. Like I hated living there. And I was like, life is so short. Life is so fleeting. You never know what's going to happen. And I was like, I need to do those things that I keep saying I'm going to do or want to do, and then just maybe too scared to do. So that was like, that was really the push.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense now why you like made the move when you did. And it's making me think like my experience with my addiction. Like I've been sober for 14 years, but attempted suicide, like I've been in that place. And so I don't think of my, like you just said, that your need to work also, like if you stop working, the existential, like I was like, oh my God, maybe I do identify with that, but I just never really thought about it that way, because I do also, like, you experienced it, because you had all these people who were really close to you. And I think suicide is different than just people dying naturally or act like it's
someone made a choice to take themselves off this earth, and that is like, I'm afraid of death. So that's like, in my mind, that's like, wow, imagine what place you must be in to kick a chair out from underneath yourself.
Yeah, no, I always say that too, but to make that choice of like, I hate where I am so much that I'm willing to just, like, I don't know what's going to happen to me, but I'm going to do it. And that's also why I can't stand people like whoever said that to you. Oh, what kind of friends do you have? Or people who like,
it's people that are naive, they haven't had to deal with it themselves. Thank God. Like, and so they don't get it. But I think it comes, and you wrestle with your mortality when you're idle, I think. Yeah. At least I do. I always
love sitting though. Like, some people love doing nothing. Just like,
I wish. It's a problem. I wish.
I think it takes practice, but I'm just not very good at it. So
I like sleeping. I love sleeping. Or like, I don't mind watching like some
dreaming when you sleep. Do you have cool dreams? Like, there's a lot of shit happening in my dreams.
Nightmares. I have nightmares. Oh, I had like years where I would dream that I was dying constantly.
We need to work through this together. We need to work through this together. This that you have, because you're okay.
Yeah, or like sleep paralysis. But this was the thing. I was like, I think I feel fine, but get these dreams. I think because I sleep really warm. Like, I'm quite a warm body, as anyone that had to sleep next to me would know. And when I'm like overheated, I have nightmares. So I think that's just why. I don't think it means anything, but
that's nice that you're able to rationalize it that way.
Yeah, like, someone's chasing me again.
Great. But, oh yeah, sorry, but so I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that, but I was curious. So thank you for sharing that. But then I guess you were talking about like the progression to where you're at now. Just, some like memorable gigs that you've had, like how you made it to the point where Kim Gordon was like, I want you to play bass for me. Because how awesome was that?
Oh, I still pinch myself. I am like very conscious that I didn't realize I was wearing a Sonic Youth shirt and I have a body head poster behind me.
Oh, I can read it. But yeah, it's cute.
But I guess like I said, like I got here and I didn't know anyone, and I was like, okay, well, if you don't know anyone, and I hate what is networking? But like, I wouldn't say like I'm a social person. I'm a shy person. And I was like, well, the way to meet people, and the whole reason why I love playing in bands anyway, is because you're forced to be social and meet people. And usually you get to meet like-minded people. So I played for anybody that asked. Almost anybody that asked me to play, I said yes. I ended up playing for like 30 bands in a year. I was sure I was burnt the hell out. I didn't even own a bass amp for a long time. I think until Fender gave me one. Thank you, Fender. I did in Australia, but I sold everything when I moved here. And I just played with all these people and really tried to support like friends and stuff like that as well. If I could get a friend on a gig, I'd try and get a friend on a gig. And I think when things kind of started to change, I was playing with this artist Do Paro, who makes amazing music, and she had hired this all-female band, which was cool because sometimes you're so used to just being the only female in a band. And we went on like this tour. I think it was just California, and And the way that I ended up in that band was through a Facebook post, which is even more hilarious. But long story short, the keyboard player who had produced her album was this woman named Shruti Kumar, who is still a great friend and an amazing composer, producer. And we were out, and she'd come from this classical background, and she's like, I've never really been on tour with everyone. And I was like, well, you rip, what do you have to worry about? And it was just a really fun time. And Shruti was like, oh, I'm doing this gig with this organization called Girl School, which is run by Anna Bulbrook, another amazing woman and violin player, and like creative. I think she wears so many hats, where it's like female identifying acts, and we're putting together this band with Shirley Manson. And I was like, oh, cool, like who's playing bass? She's like, we don't have a bass player. Like it's strings and blah, 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 but we have a real drummer. And I was like, you have a real drummer and no bass player? And I was like, oh. I was like, I was like, well, hi. Hi. I was like, you should let me play bass. And lo and behold, she did. Bless her. And I was the last person to get added to that lineup. I can't even remember. I think I had like a week. We were on tour, so I couldn't learn the songs or anything. And I can't even remember how long I had to learn those songs, but it was not a long time. I think it was like days. And so got off that tour, played that show with Shirley and Fiona, who came up and did a song with us. And it was just a great time. It was, a lot of the same people from Rock and Roll Camp for Girls LA. And then from that, I had just been like playing other gigs around town. Like I was playing with Kate Clover, who's like a great artist. It was kind of like in that band, and like, I had played with like Jenny V, who is the bass player for Eagles of Death Metal, and Courtney Love and people like that. And I was just starting to play with like people where I had heard their music before, and then I guess like I ran into Death Valley Girls randomly at, I think Patty Shermer was doing a book reading. And Patty Shermer was involved with Rock Camp for Girls LA as well. So we went to go hear like her talk about like her new book, which is a great book. Hit so hard. Like I loved reading it. And yeah, I ran into Bonnie and Larry, and Bonnie was like, you smell amazing. And I was like, oh, thank you. And she's like, Bonnie from Death Valley Girls. And I was like, I know who Death Valley Girls are. Like, what am I, an idiot? And we got pizza after the talk, and yeah, and I was just like, I'm sure I was probably like, if you ever need a bass player, then, because I had Mona, who runs Rock and Roll Camp for Girls LA, she's one of the co-founders. When I was like, I'm moving, you have any advice? And when I pulled her up about this, she didn't remember telling me this, but she was like, just let people know that you want to play with them. Let people know that you like their music, that that you want to be around with them, that you want to play with them. Just do that. And I was like, oh yeah. And so I did that, and I was like, I want to play with you guys. Like, if you ever need someone, call me. And Bonnie and Larry called me and were like, do you want to play with us? We have this show or a couple shows. And I was like, absolutely, I do. Sounds like so much fun. We had so much fun. We were the band, and I only just remembered this. You'll love this. We were the band in this lesbian vampire movie where I think the lead is a transgender woman who hangs out with these like lesbian vampires, where like the rule is like, You only bite. You don't turn men into vampires kind of thing. And we were the band playing at the show that they go and hang out at. It's called BIT, B-I-T.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it just came out, which is funny because this was like,
oh my God, I'm so excited.
Years ago. But I got a text message from my friend Reese, and he was like, "Hey, do you have plans for the summer and like for the rest of the year?" And I was like, "Oh, I have maybe some things, but nothing really confirmed. Why?" And he's like, "Well, this artist Phoebe Bridgers needs a bass player." And I was like, "Oh," and I had heard of her once through someone else previously and had listened to some of her music, but I didn't know really anything about her. And I was like, okay, yeah, absolutely, like hook me up. And I got the call, I think, to audition for her when I was on stage with the lesbian vampire movie, which is very fitting. And yeah, I had to learn 2 songs in less than 12 hours and turned up I didn't make the next day of shooting, turned up the next day to play with her and Marshall, the drummer. And they were leaving in 4 days to go on tour.
Whoa.
And yeah, and so I got a call to say that I had the gig, and I was like, great, I now have 4 days to learn like 12 songs and some harmonies, and get in a van and drive from LA to New York, or like Eau Claire, I think one of our first shows were. So yeah, and I couldn't play with Death Valley Girls anymore, which was sad, but yeah, so I went on tour having never really met any of them, and yeah, sat in a van for 2-3 days driving.
That's a good way to get to know people.
Yeah.
And like, lucky you get along. Like, she seems like she has you guys have similar senses of humor.
Yeah, well, I don't think she was in the van because she had to be in Eau Claire earlier.
Oh, right.
For some programming thing. But I mean, after that, we definitely spent a lot of time in that band together. But everyone in that band is so lovely and so nice and hilarious. So yeah, it was definitely an experience. And that, I feel like that tour turned into months. I feel like that was the next 6 months of my life. Yeah. It was I felt like a long tour. And I hadn't seen much of America before then. So that was like me seeing America, was like playing these like, Eau Claire and like these weird little shows in Idaho. Yeah, and then did that, which was like kind of crazy that I guess like some of it had all come down to like a Facebook post, really, in a lot of ways. But yeah, and then yeah, played with Phoebe, still play with Phoebe. And all the other bands that she has, like Boy Genius, I got to play in that band, and Better Oblivion Community Center, I got to play in that band, which is great because they're all different but all super fun, and I love the music. And yeah, so that has been a lot of my time since. And I guess I didn't know what I was doing. I think I was going out to brunch one day, and I got a random text message saying, "Hey, do you want to play bass for Kim Gordon?" And I was like, duh, yeah.
Who was it? Who sent that?
Her MD. Her MD had got my number from my lovely pal Reese, who put me on the Phoebe tour.
See, networking.
And yeah, pardon?
Said, see, networking.
And I think it's just like when someone sees that you're right for a part. Mm-hmm. Like I think that's something that I have learned, or at least come to like learn and appreciate, is like I don't have to be, I mean, I can try and be like the best bass player, but like I'm not going to be the best bass player in LA. I didn't go to jazz school. Like I didn't start playing bass when I was 5. I'm not a child prodigy. I can work really hard now with the skill set that I have, but I'm not going to like get put forward for like, you know, jazz shows at the jazz club or like, because I couldn't do it. But like, you know, like I've been lucky enough to play with only artists whose music I like, and somehow through that, I guess, you know, people are like, well, this other person needs someone who does exactly this, and this is exactly what you do. So it's been the right fit for the job, I think, has like been my saving grace through all of this. And like, and you know, I think is like a testament. Like sometimes everyone grapples with imposter syndrome and feeling like they're not good enough, and it's like you don't have to be the best.
Yeah,
you have to.
And also,
like,
everybody feels like that.
And yeah, everybody feels like that. You know, like I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I still work hard because I want to be the best I can be. But yeah, I think it was just like, if people can see that you're doing something and you're reliable and like they can rely on you to do a job, like that's always just been a huge part of my personality, is to be a reliable person, because I expect that from other people. So, and I think people respect that, especially in a touring situation. You know, artists have so much more important things to think about than whether their bass player is turning up and knowing the songs.
Yeah.
So you better turn up and know the songs.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised, you know, of how some people conduct themselves. But I pride myself on if I say I'm going to do something, then I do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that at least, you know, people can be chill and, you know, focus on their own music or singing or songwriting or creating or whatever it is. So thankfully, and also, you know, Reese, what would I do without him? That people, I don't know, if they're like, if you need a bass player that kind of does this, Emily Retsas, why not?
You gotta get that on a
$9.95, you can get a discount. No.
Oh man. Okay, so I just have a few closing questions, but the first one, which I have never asked anybody else before, is what the fuck is David Crosby's problem?
No, I don't know. I mean, I love Twitter, I would say that. The thing about I love Phoebe. The thing about the people I think don't get is Phoebe is very smart and very talented and very funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like a triple threat there. So, you know, I think when people are kind of like just hating on something for the sake of it, I'm like, she doesn't care what you think about her smashing a guitar. She didn't. What, did it look serious to you? Like, I don't know. You know, I don't know. Like, that's the thing. It's like she's great at like not taking herself seriously and not too seriously. But people were just like,
I was
raw about a smashed guitar.
Yeah, because you know, I stayed up and watched it. So I could see. I was like,
I stayed up to play it.
Yeah. But then I was not expecting the following day to go on Twitter and like, it's like no one else in the history of music had ever like banged up an instrument before.
It's because the thing I hate is like, it's because she's a young woman and she didn't smash it well enough for everyone. You know, like
never do anything well enough. I also think it's because it doesn't, like, if you're a woman in music and her category, right, is like, you know, she's like friends with Conor Oberst, singer-songwriter, you know, it's like you're not allowed to step out of that box and like do something unexpected. So I think that it's more like she's been put in this category and you don't, because she's stuck there, like she doesn't have permission to like sing a pretty song and then fuck a guitar up because it's too confusing. It like scrambles people's brains.
Well, and
like Courtney Love can do it, but not Phoebe Bridgers, you know?
Right. Like, I mean, the funny thing is I don't think Phoebe has a box. I feel like if she wanted to wake up tomorrow and make an electronic album, she would, and it would be great.
Oh yeah. It doesn't have anything to do with the art. It has to do with like
It's just like a platform of like normies saw her on TV and were like, oh, women smashing guitar, or like women being like, well, she didn't, well, it wasn't rock enough.
Yeah.
And which is this whole thing where it's like, I don't know, people inside too long were taking themselves far too seriously, which I think is half the problem. And I don't even know what David Crosby has done.
Oh my God, I don't even remember, but I remember when I saw that
she called him
whatever she tweeted back at him just made me spit my drink out, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'll love her forever for that. Can you even imagine like some old guy from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young is like goes on Twitter to like make fun of you, to put down.
That's how you know you've done something wrong. is when those people are mad. You know that you're doing something great when people like that are like, oh, just the disrespect of an instrument. It's like
this.
There's so many other things that we could be worrying about as a people, and whether or not a guitar that was going to be smashed was smashed as correctly or as rock as people had anticipated is not the antithesis of that. But yeah, I mean, I'm just happy that she's my boss.
Yeah.
What a great privilege.
Yep. Yeah.
Really.
You did a great job. I was very proud. I like seeing you on the television.
I could get used to it. If someone has to be on SNL, it might as well be me. But like in the same way, I'm sure some people are like, I mean, I've dated people and I've been in bands where they're like, oh, I'm going to record over your bass parts, or Emily's not even a very good bass player. Emily's not even like the best bass player in this band. It's like, that's not what this is. You don't have to be. You don't have to smash. Not everything in life is perfect. I don't know. You just do your thing. You do your thing, and you be a good person, and don't take yourself too seriously. Take your work seriously, and that's what else can you ask for? I don't know.
Really? I just think that there's a soul connection happening here.
Oh, good. I thought I was just.
No, it's nothing bad, but you keep saying. I just did an interview with someone the other day, and one of my life mottos is like, take your work seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. And if I ever start to take myself too seriously, like my friends have permission to just like throw me off a bridge, because
like stand up for yourself. I mean, my parents are always like, you be good to everyone.
Yeah.
Unless someone, if someone's not good to you, you stand up for you. Like I used to stand up. If someone bullied my older sister, my dad would be like, you need to go sort this out for her. And they would send me in. Because I was the one who would stand up and be like, what the fuck? Yeah. And like get into a fight for her or something. I don't know. But, like I think some people are like, take themselves too seriously, and then maybe are not nice people, or like that's not their intention. It's like to be nice only if they're getting something, and which I mean feeds back into like the whole LA thing. It's like you should be nice to everyone.
Yeah, it's not hard to be nice. It makes life easier.
Also, it's so nice to be nice.
Yeah, it feels good.
Feels good.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to be nice.
People have varying and interesting stories. Like. Yeah, I don't know. So just that's all. But take your work seriously. I don't know. When people don't, I'm like, what's the point? Sometimes.
I'm not going to ask you how you feel about your role or contribution to rock history, because we're not there yet.
Damn it.
Yeah, we'll come back like 10 years or something.
I hope we come back in 10 years.
You're not old enough. Yeah. We will. Don't be afraid of death. But I do want to ask you, so I ask everyone this question too at the end of every interview, just your thoughts on the visibility of women in rock history in general. Is there still a gender discrepancy? Is it better or worse? Just your thoughts on that.
I mean, there's still a gender discrepancy. I just have to look at like, the environments that I'm in where you're like, people are still walking into rooms where bands are like all white men, led by all white men. And I think until like that changes, then I think it'll be that way. I think it'll take some time too. I think it's, but in the same respect, I think it's definitely gotten better. You know, I've definitely played in more mixed bands. I guess you know, in the last 5 years than I did, and I think people are more willing to like respect what you do and believe in what you do. But sometimes it can just be like, you know, the people that you're around as well. I think it's hard because like I always feel like Australia has this like weird toxic masculinity kind of thing where like sometimes it's the women holding you back, sometimes it's the men, sometimes it's both. And you know, I have bleach blonde hair and people don't always take that seriously, funnily enough. But yeah, like I feel like people are making conscious efforts to look at what they're doing and include people or reach outside of the circles, you know, that are maybe familiar for them and look harder, because there are people doing varied things from varying backgrounds that are interesting and valid and should be included. But I don't think we're like at a place, I don't think there's gender equality, you know, at all, you know, but it's getting, you know, it's inching there.
Are you optimistic about it? Hopeful? No?
I don't know if I'm an optimist in any respect. I think you always have to fight, you know, you always have to fight for good. I think you always, at least that seems, I hope I'm wrong. Where one day will be that. I don't see it in my lifetime. But I think that there's some like, you know, some very smart women who are, you know, now have like the space where they can be their boss and make that decision for themselves, you know, because they have that power to do that. Where maybe they didn't have that before, you know, people are more willing to be outspoken and ask for the things that they want and need, or want to be seen, and are trusted maybe a little bit more to do that as well. So, yeah, I think it can get better, but I think we have to always keep pushing and making space and, you know, dropping the ladder down to help other people up. I think that's such an important thing. It's like, just because you've done it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, you know, be doing more. I think Patty Schemmel had something in her book about like you should always be giving back.
Yeah.
Like look at ways that you can give back to your community or create opportunities for other people. And I think that's really important. I know I used to like do a lot of community music programs in Adelaide where I was working with this great organization called Northern Sound System for like, you know, people in disadvantaged areas. I was from a disadvantaged area. Like, you know, we did high school over the phone. So it's like if people don't have access to like Berkeley and, you know, all these other things, what are some other ways that you can give back or, you know, create pathways for people who maybe want to do something that you're doing, but don't know how.
Yeah.
Or can't see a pathway as well. So, or just knowing that, you know, there's opportunities out there for them to make their own path. I think that can be daunting sometimes. And it's important to show people and show women and women identifying people, you know, that non-white cis men, that they can do that. Because that can be hard to have permission. I know I needed permission. So yeah, trying to like create space in that respect, I think is important.
Emily, you're wonderful.
Stop.
I thought this was a really great first date. I think we have a lot in common. And I like your partner already. I don't know him yet, but I can tell that I'm going to like him.
Oh, good.
I'm okay with it. Yeah.
thank you so much for listening. Please follow Emily on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. She's really funny on Twitter. Please, I am doing my big yearly fundraising event for the Women of Rock Oral History Project. You can find that on our Facebook page. If you're uncomfortable donating through Facebook or you don't have a Facebook, you can donate year-round at womenofrock.org. Follow the project on Instagram, Women of Rock OHP. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, although I'm not that great at Twitter. But if you're bored, just do that. And I'll see you next time.